Hello and welcome to another night shift. My name is Yazil and today we want to save our UMA into our database. You see here my workbench and you see in the first line here the player name, the player gender, the player race, the ID of course, and here our UMA string. And we want to save that. And later on we want to see if we can shorten it a little bit. So you see this cryptic something is way shorter than this above. For that, let's go into our player plugin. And in the player plugin we had everything until our data subject. So delete that out of that and try using the Darkrift reader, read Darkrift reader data.data. And first of all, we put it in the int in that, and then the string player name, the string gender, the string race. And after that, a list of bytes, I called it UMA data, and I read the bytes. And after that, we try using the Darkrift server database execute query, and we insert into our table player the fields ID, player name, player gender, player race, and UMA data. If you go here, you can see that here ID, player name, player gender, player race, UMA data. If you call something different, it is defined, let me see, in install somewhere. Here it is. Blind I'm also. So here in install you define it. So if you call here something different, you have to change that. Best is to go into your column list here in the workbench. So after you insert that, you define the values and we go for query parameters. So we got add ID, add player name, add player gender, add player race, add player UMA. And we got a new player query parameter, and there it is. ID stands for underscore ID, player name stands for underscore player name, player gender for gender, player race for race, and UMA data for UMA data. So then catch the exceptions. We only want to see them if we are in debug mode, and this one you can oh well, we let it just in there and make a debug maybe. String copy, string v, debug, save. So if we in debug, we get in the save player, a message save player, and then we catch the exception from our try here from the reader. That was from the database. That's from the reader. Oh, there's my copied stuff. So we changed that to player plugin invalid data received on player request. So that is basically all for just a function to save something into the database. It's not secure, and we got still a problem with the ID, if it's correct or something like that. Also, if you can see here, we just add a few things into the database. The rest of the stuff is still null. So we have to change that also later on. But that's all for the player plugin. So go and build it. Oh yes, I saved something. I changed something. Then go and oh, there you see my directory for macros server, server source, player plugin, plugin bin debug, player plugin copy, and go for server plugins and save there. Good. Oh, we can start the server, so we don't have to do that later on. Server started. Here. Player plugin version 1. So don't need that any longer. So we go there and into our Unity. There's the Unity. Good. For the Unity, what I did is we go to the player character screen and scene, not screen. And I added a little window down here. So we go for right shift UI, new canvas, or no, new panel. Then we added an input field and we added a button. So I just copied the button human. So I got change that to save human or save player. So I position it and after that I went to the functions. For the functions I got a new directory here, player, and I got a player manager. The player is not important for this part in the moment, but the player manager we will work with. So we go into our player manager. Before that I see the yconst over here. Of course you have to add the tags and or the tag and the subject here. You know how to do that and why is that. It's for the transport so we don't mix up. In our player plugin we choose the 11 and 1 and 2, so make sure you have the same here. Okay, we save that and go to the player manager. So basically you can copy the most parts of the login manager. I made a namespace for Yazil. For this it's Yazil.player and the class of course is player manager. This part is for later on and was for testing for me, so you don't need that, so ignore that. We need to have the function save player, and in the function we expect to have a string for the player name, a string for the race name, string for the gender, and a byte, which is bytes for me here. In the next part we use the dark rift writer, so using dark rift writer, a new dark rift writer, and we write out of our login manager. So you make sure you got yazil.login, so or your login manager namespace in here, and get the user ID. To remember, in the login manager, just call that for a sec. We set the user ID here to what we wrote from the connection after we got login OK. And since that's an setGet function and public static, it's readable from everywhere after we set it. And oops, not there, player manager. And so we get our login manager user name, user ID, so we know who we are. And here I got just a little debug login line to see the length of our UMA. We need that for testing later on. And after that we send to server, which is the function we used in login manager also, and send it the player tag and the player subject player save data, and the writer we constructed here. The load player, you don't need that in a moment, and also the undata handler, we don't need that, but just for being a whole construct, I have that in here. It's just for catching as any messages we send later on. So that's the function send to server. We have that, as I said, in login manager. And after that we bind to onData to the onData event from the receiver. And that's basically all for this part. So since we don't use these parts and to check the username if it's already there and stuff like that, we do that later on, I think in 4.4. So we go again through the player manager. Here so you see the namespaces. We created a new namespace for ourselves. We opened the class. We produced the function save player, so we can import in the different things we want to transfer. And after we constructed a writer, we send it to server. We use our send to server function here, and we see if we are connected, then we send that to the server, and then we bind to the onData event, which is a function which connects us to the onData handler from the receiver. And here's the onData handler, which catches everything in a moment from the type player type. So next we go to the UMA builder. In the UMA builder we have a new input field, which is our player name, which we defined here, username input field. And this is all the stuff you already have, or part of that you have. And we created a function. This function is get UMA receipt. That's the part where we collect the information on our player and save it. So we return a byte, a list of bytes of that. We can, let me show you. Do I find that? It's example. It's should be receipt, text receipt. There it is. This is the function which is comes with the UMA, and here's the get bytes, and that's the function we use, and it returns a list of bytes. So we know we have to have a list of bytes there. So we go for our UMA receipt and call it receipt, and it's a scriptable object, and it's from the instance UMA text receipt. And there's a function in receipt then, or in UMA text receipt, which saves our data into the variable. We open that again into the variable here, receipt string. And after that, we have our return variable, and we set that to receive.getBytes. And after that, we just return the variable we created on top here. So as the next part, we need a function for the button, and we use that from the player manager we created here. Save player, player name, dot text, race, gender, and get UMA receipt. So player name dot text is our input field, and these both we need later on, and all the comments here also we need later on. We just want to try these functions first. So save that, and now you just have to take your button, go there, go to your function, player, I got it on the player, and go to your UMA builder and save my player. So I think we should have everything. We save and going to login and going startup. And as we all know, 2 and 2 is a valid user. We log on. You see my UMA here, and we type in the name and go on save. And you see the UMA length is here 4,466 characters or bytes. That's way too long. Let's make this, if we go to female and do it now, we see the length is even greater. Also, if we add some stuff here to our character and save, then it's already 30 more. And if you add more and more stuff, the UMA character will grow in the data it has. So I made a couple functions. So for shorten our UMA string, we have a compress function. So for that compression to work, we need to have a couple functions. It's the Unity.io compression package, which is on the asset store. You just download and import it, and that's all you need. A little different is if we go and use this function over here and return compress UMA player bytes, we gonna look on this function. We see this compress takes an byte array, but returns no byte array. It returns in string. So we need to make a couple changes since it was before without the compress. The return was an byte array, so we have to change that to a string now. So change the byte array to string here. Enter here compress your variable, and then go for this function. It's basically a memory stream, and in the memory stream you have the deflat stream, and you feed the deflat stream with your buffer. And it has an offset of 0 and the buffer.length as a value. After that, we rewind our memory stream position to 0 and going for the compressed data byte array, and it has the length of the memory stream. And then we read that from the memory stream, read from the memory string the compressed data, and with an offset of 0 until the length. And after that, we have a zip buffer with a new byte array with the compressed data.length plus 4, which is the offset. And then we have a copy block and use it on the source, the compressed data with an offset 0, and to the buffer as an destination with offset 4 for the length of compressed data.length. After that, we convert it and get the bytes from the buffer size, offset to offset, and after that we convert it to a string. If you would do that here direct, you get an error without the return without the 2 base 4064 string. You get an error if you want to try import that, because that's a real byte array with special characters in it. So we do need to do that, so we get a string back and feed the string into our player manager. On this part you see string. Then you have to go into your player manager, and here on our save player you have to change this byte array to string and just write it just as usual to the writer, and nothing else you have to change here. We save that, and then we have to go in our player plugin, and here on our reader we have to change that byte array to string and the reader to read string. And that's basically all you have to change. And if you build that, copy that into our server, we're going to start that here. Oh, let's see our workbench first. Hopefully it works. So the user ID 26 is not in. And we go for to login. And if we give a name here and say save, it says it's 1360, which is basically a fourth of the beginning length. And if we go to our workbench, let's do that and do an, we see there is our player ID 26, which is my 2. If you don't believe me, we go on our player accounts, columns, no, select rows. You see here's 22 with the ID 26. And it has the shortened UMA string in it. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, and if you enjoyed it a little more, you're more than welcome to subscribe to close follow the series. If you want to support me and my course, just go to my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Diazil, and Yeah, well, happy night shift and see you then.